devote themselves to their beloved true Guru. And Seva again is Seva through follow his teachings, through doing Simran, through living your life according to that, according to Gurmat. So those who serve the Guru in this way, in a Sukh Sadhvai, they always achieve peace and happiness forever. Eternal peace, eternal happiness is obtained through the Guru's teachings. Real peace and happiness comes through that. Tina Nanak Satgur Bhetya, Tina Milya Har Soi. And those who meet the true Guru, and meeting means more than just meeting. Meeting means meeting of the hearts. You dedicate yourself to the Guru and you really build this special relationship with him. Milya Har Soi, and through the Guru you meet with God himself. The Lord himself meets those who meet the Guru in this sense, in this deep sense. Okay, any questions, comments before we move on to the next one? Then there's a shlok by Guru Angad Dev Ji, Shlok Mahalla Duja. This shlok and the other ones here are a lot to do with, the chant starts out with seva, with serving the Guru. And the shloks talk about total dedicated service without home, complete surrender to the Guru, that kind of absolute service. Chakar lage chakri nale karo baad. If you look at servants who serve their master, at the same time they get into argumentative, they have garav, they show some arrogance in some ways, become argumentative. Gallan kare ghaderiyan, qasam na paaye saad. And talks a lot, or they may make a lot of claims about how good they are and how they are being such gurmukhs and they're doing so much part and they're doing all these parts or whatever, they talk a lot about, or how much they may talk a lot about their knowledge of Gurbani and tell people how much they know. So none of that matters if they are not being humble and devoted. Qasam na paaye saad, the master is not going to be pleased with them. So it's humility and total dedication is what the Guru is looking for. Aap gawaye, that's the key word, aap gawaye. If you can lose yourself, your home, your vanity. Aap gawaye seva kare tankich paaye saad. If you can totally efface yourself or your home and perform service with true humility, only then is such a servant, such a devotee worthy of some honor. Tankich paaye maan. So maan, the worldly maan or maan you give yourself is worthless. Maan comes from giving up all your maan, from being effacing yourself and totally dedicating to the Guru and overcoming your home, and that's the real honor.
Guruji, I wanted to add a comment here.
Sure.
That what Guruji is saying is very true in the spiritual realm, but it's equally true in the worldly ways. It's like if you love someone and you constantly keep telling them how much you're doing for them and how wonderful and pure you are, that you're giving them so much love, etc., etc. It just takes away from it.
Mm-hmm.
And but if you're doing it from the spontaneity of your heart, because it brings joy to you, then the other person feels that joy. And I remember my mother-in-law, you know how she used to cook for us, and she had an accident and she was bedridden for several months, and I got, the transition happened and I started taking care of the house and the cooking. But when she got better, she wanted it back, and I said, Mama, you don't have to. It's like I'm doing it now and I'm used to it. And she said, Betty, you don't understand that through doing this for you, I am serving my Vaheguru through my children. And
that's a beautiful example. In fact, the example of a selfless love of a mother for the child is one of the best examples of selfless love.
Very sweet. And even when she was on her deathbed, she would always tell me, Bache, all that I want to do is I want to get better, and I want to come and make garam fulkas for you.
Very nice. Yeah, as kids we don't always realize what our parents do for us, what that selfless love is till it's our turn to deal with the kids and they are doing their own thing. But this is very true in our relationships with people. This is what true selfless love is. But it runs counter to the cultural mores of the generation and the time, where promoting yourself is a big part of success.
But not in relationships.
In general, that's
personal relationships,
yeah, right.
maybe business relationships.
But the challenge for somebody trying to follow the Guru's teachings is how to still succeed in the world, but not build any home or vanity around it. You still have to talk about your strengths at times, but you don't have to be vain about it. You don't have to. You can do it in a way that's still very humble and straightforward and factual, and you can still follow these teachings and still get the information out and still do the communication you need to do. You don't have to fall into that trap of saying, I have to make myself better than the other people and show myself as being better and get into that frame of mind.
Our boys had a class in Belém in ethics, and it was the difference between self-confidence and self-conceit.
Exactly.
And it's a very fine line sometimes. Yes.
And you know what? In Asa-Di-Vaar, there's a beautiful pointer to what is love and what is commerce. And the Guru says that if you're going to count what you've done for me and what I have to do for you, then it's not love, it's commerce, it's trade. So I think sometimes in the business world it's important, but then understand that it's the business world. And it's not a world where relationships and love and selfless giving is,
So even in the business world, there's a lot of opportunities for succeeding through partnerships, through promoting people around you, not just yourself, through teamwork and building up others around you. And you can be very successful in that mode, and some of the most successful people do it that way.
And they do it with the intent of...
Without being selfish and without being arrogant. Or,
to use a cliche, have a win-win.
Exactly. It was very good. So getting back to the Guru's teachings, so in the spiritual world in particular, he's talking especially about the relationship with the Guru and God, one of total surrender, dedication, and selfless service. And he says, Nanak jisno laga tis mile, laga so parvan. So ultimately, this leads to complete merger with the one you're loving, with your beloved. And when you are not only engaged with your service, but you get totally absorbed in it. And such a devotee really becomes acceptable in God's court.
When you mention service to God, what service you are referring to? What is service you are really doing? I just want to expand on this service.
It's a very good point. The word service, seva, is used a lot, but it refers much more to following the Guru's teaching, being devoted to God. Naam Simran, which we'll talk about in the next session, we'll hear a lot about that. That's the ultimate seva of Guru and God, is through Naam Simran. And also living your life, based on that, which does involve service to the community, service to others, flows out of that. But the real seva is Naam Simran and getting in tune with my Guru. The word seva often refers to that when he says Guru Sevna, it's following his teachings, it's doing what he says.
And I think what happens when you do Naam Simran, because in Gurbani there's a line that says, "Ke Vaheguru ji nu ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਗੁਣ ਪਾਵਦੇ ਨੇ." The divine likes the divine qualities. So when you dwell on the divine and you obtain that consciousness, then everything that you do is in divine consciousness. Every act, every thought, everything. And I think that is the true manifestation of Simran, when it becomes transformational, when it comes into your life. And I think that is Naam. I mean, I think the chanting is the process, and when you live the Naam, it reflects in everything you say, do, and think.
So Naam Simran,
because then you overcome your home and you see Vaheguru in everybody. So
Naam
that drives your
Simran,
actions.
which takes you to the realm of service, so to speak, actions and good deeds.
In everything, your watchfulness.
And once you're in that
You do
mode,
everything in the spirit of, there's no home. You're not seeing
so all
yourself,
your
but
actions
just seeing Vaheguru in
transform into
everybody.
good actions and good
Good
thoughts and
thoughts.
good deeds. It's like programming yourself in a way, in a crude, I mean,
I think you use the word transformational. That's very important.
Transformation.
It is it's spiritual growth. Naam Simran is eventually changing yourself. Very places it talks about killing yourself, marna apne aap ko. That's in the sense your old home is gone and you're getting reborn as.
Changes your way of thinking.
It's being reborn.
Yeah.
That was the metaphor of the Khalsa too.
Just trying to say, on one hand, you're trying to define service, and then when you use the word good, that's again a relative term. I think it all boils down to the spirit in which the same deed is done. You can do the same, doing the right thing for the wrong reason doesn't serve you at all. So it's all about that consciousness.
Yeah, the Guru often questions the things that are done as in the name of good deeds. When you do it as a formality or as a punkarya, you're doing a lot of dhan to a lot of people. You say, I gave so much money to so many people. That's a form of good service, but you're doing it as a kind of a ritual, and to get praised for that, then that is not seva. So it has to be done, as you said, in that selfless spirit. It's not just the action, it's the spirit it's done in.
We got a vak last night, Anhad and I, which said that, Anhad is a lot into yoga these days. A lot of disciplined chanting, a lot of it. And the vak he got was that you can do a lot of disciplined chanting and a lot of postures and a lot of yoga and a lot of remembrance. And it is to no avail until it becomes brings inner change in you. I was like, wow.
So rituals are not important, it's just inner consciousness.
Even the mechanical chanting is not until it brings the change within you. The love.
The consciousness.
The love, the rising of the divine consciousness. It was very, very illuminating that he gets this vak, because he's so much into it, and he's telling me, you don't get up and you don't do this.
The next couple of lines kind of tied into some aspect of that also. Joji hoy so ugve mukha kaya vav. It's the spirit you do things in, it's what's in your heart. That's what's really going to manifest itself through your actions and through the result that you get of these actions. So Joji hoy so ugve, that's what's going to come out. Mukha kaya vav. What you claim, what you say, that's like wind, it's meaningless. It's
superficial. I read it, I know. As you change, so you become.
Yeah.
The same, basically.
But it's just talking about it alone doesn't do it. We can claim we know all this thing and we can be very learned. Words don't mean anything unless it's in your heart and it manifests itself through your actions. Mukha kaya vav. But joji hoy so ugve. What's in your heart, that's what's going to get manifested, not just what you claim or what you say or how wise or whatever you seem to be. Dije bik mange amrit dekho e nyao. This is our ways, this is what we all claim, we do bad things and we expect to get good things out of it. What kind of justice or what sense does that make? He sows seeds of poison and demands ambrosial nectar. Another one by Guru Angad Dev Ji, next slok. Naal yaane dosti kade na aave ras. Jiha jane te ho varta hai dekho ko nirjas. And those of us who are, when we are, one is ignorant and foolish, when you haven't really gotten this understanding from the Guru, getting too much involved or influenced by people like that doesn't get you anywhere. So don't get too sucked into bad company of people who don't understand the reality. This can also refer to the yana part of yourself also. There's an internal yana also, there's a foolish part of our own self also, not just others. So he says, don't get entangled with others who are foolish, and don't follow your own foolish instincts also, because we all have that within us. So naal yaane dosti kade na aave ras, jiha jane te ho varte dekho ko nirjas. Because whatever one's limited understanding is, that's how person's ways are going to be also. And you can check it out and see, you can listen to your own foolish mind and it will lead you astray also. So test karke dekh lo. If you follow your base instincts, it will take you the wrong way. You can check it out yourself. Vastu andar vas samave, duji hove paas. Says that the good stuff, Nam Simran, spirituality, good understanding can only come into you if you get rid of all the other stuff first. So if something is already full of junk, you're not going to be able to put too much more good stuff into it. Vast andar vas samave can get absorbed only if you empty it out first. So your heart can be filled with love of God only if you get rid of all the other, overcome all your other attractions, all your other things that are leading you astray. So don't listen to that foolish one inside. Get rid of that foolish self and let the Guru's teachings, let the Naam come in. And the next line, this one I never understood till I, went and I tried to read the meanings and understand it. It's one of the nice things about participating in, like you're doing a talk today, is you end up having to study the stuff that sometimes you've just said in the past and you haven't paid attention to it, and now you have to stop and say, now what is Guruji saying here? And again, talking about the relationship of the devotee with the master, it says, Sahib se ti hukam na chale, kahi bane ardas. You can't demand things of God or Guru. You can't say, I've done this thing, now I should be getting some results. You could do your best, but then you have to leave it up to the Guru himself. And you can only approach him through prayer, through ardas, and look for his blessing. So that's one of the challenges sometimes of being very religious. The more you do these things, you can also get into, now I've done all this, I'm doing a lot of part, I'm doing yoga, I'm doing all these asanas, I'm doing Simran, I'm getting up in the morning, spending an hour. And there's even with your best effort, there's a subtle harm that can get in there. That becomes an obstacle in the path to spiritual success. There has to be
There are two aspects of life. One is the spiritual side and one is the worldly. In the spiritual side, it's good that, you do something and don't expect in return. But in the worldly side, every day, you do something and you do expect something in return. How do you reconcile, your daily behavior and then the spiritual pursuits?
Well, Jesse was giving us an example of, dedicated people who do a lot of selfless things or do the right thing without looking for specific rewards.
I'm just saying, like, a guy is doing a good job, he's expecting a bonus at the end of the year. I'm just saying worldly, training. So how does one reconcile what we do on a daily basis and what, we do on the spiritual side?
Well, there are examples where obviously it doesn't work for everything, but in terms of a relationship with people you're working with or working for, if you focus more on doing a good job versus focusing on what you get in return, sometimes generally you can end up doing even better. If you don't focus so much on the rewards, if you focus on doing the right thing and being successful.
I'm just curious.
Going on the other way of looking at it, just like spirituality and the physical world, you can also consider that be one and the same, because what you do in spiritual world and what you do in physical world, your expectation is still zero, because only God can give you the results, both in spiritual world and the physical world, because physical world is not different than the other one in a way, because He's the one giving on either side.
At a deeper level, that's very true.
We can only do with His blessing the job, but the results are not in our hands, and either results are not in our hands. So we even forget about the results, and Malik, you only know what you have to give us. Whatever you give or not give, it's up to you. Just bless us, and that's the end of it.
So you can let the spiritual guide you in your worldly ways in that deeper sense.
And that's how it's meant to be. Like it's not that they're separate worlds. Sometimes the examples are given to understand, what it is. But in another place in Gurbani, there's a line that says that Data o na mangiye fir mangan jaiye. Don't ask for that giver to whom you have to go repeatedly. So if you ask from that one giver, then everybody becomes a giver to you. Lakh 84 medni.
Well, at a deeper level, if you...
The entire species serves you.
At a deeper level, if you actually ask for things, they have various kind of repercussions and results, and you end up asking for more and more. And ultimately, if all you look for, if you focus on spirituality and on dedication to God, then everything else flows to you. That's at a spiritual level, that's part of the answer. Like bintu dhorja magna se dukhande dukh. Other things, looking for worldly things, worldly success, and only lead to more entanglements. So in some sense, don't focus on any of those successes so much.
Because you get so much.
I'm sorry.
ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਚ ਇੱਕ ਦੋ ਪ੍ਰਮਾਣ ਨੇ, ਜਿਵੇਂ ਦੁਨੀਆ 'ਚ ਨਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਮਾਂ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਪਾਲਦੀ ਹੈ, ਮਾਂ-ਬਾਪ ਬੱਚੇ ਦੀ ਬੜੀ ਸੇਵਾ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੀ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਪਾਲੇ ਆ, ਤੇ ਉਹ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਗੱਲ ਲਿਖੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਮਾਂ ਕਈ ਵਾਰ ਇਹ ਐਕਸਪੈਕਟ ਕਰਦੀ ਕਿ ਬੱਚਾ ਵੱਡਾ ਹੋਏਗਾ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਸੁੱਖ ਦੇਵੇਗਾ। ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਬੜੀ ਕਲੀਅਰ ਲਿਖੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਜੈਸੇ ਜਨਨ ਜਠਰ ਮੈਂ ਪ੍ਰਾਣੀ ਹੋ रहता उधर में जा रही ਕਿ ਤੁਕ ਬੜੀ ਸੋਹਣੀ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਯਾਦ ਨਹੀਂ ਆ ਰਹੀ, ਕਹਿੰਦੀ ਉਹ ਮਾਤਾ ਸੋਚਦੀ ਕਿ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਵੱਡਾ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਸੁੱਖ ਦੇਵੇਗਾ, ਤੇ ਵੀ ਮੈਂ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਪਾਲਾਂ, ਚੰਗਾ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਪੜਾਵਾਂ ਲਿਖਾਵਾਂ, ਚੰਗਾ ਸੁੱਖ ਦੇਵਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਆਪ ਸੁਖੀ ਹੋਏਗਾ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਸੁੱਖ ਦੇਗਾ। ਪਰ ਉਹਦੀ ਐਕਸਪੈਕਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਉਹ ਗਲਤ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਵੱਡਾ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਬੱਚਾ ਮਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸੁੱਖ ਨਹੀਂ ਦਿੰਦਾ, ਉਲਟਾ ਮਾਂ ਦੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਦੁੱਖ ਮਿਲ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ। ਤੇ ਇਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਹੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਤੇ ਭਗਤੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਨਾ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਇਹ ਲਾਈਨ ਇੱਥੇ ਤਾਂ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਟਕ ਹੋਇਆ ਨਾ, ਇੱਥੇ ਆ ਗਏ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਜੋ ਕੁਝ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਉਹਦਾ ਫਲ ਗੁਰੂ ਨੇ ਤਦੋਂ ਹੀ ਦੇਣਾ ਹੈ। ਜਿਵੇਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਨਾਮ ਸਿਮਰਨ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ, ਭਗਤੀ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ, ਰਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਆ ਰਿਹਾ, ਕਈ ਵਾਰ ਮਤਲਬ ਪਿਆਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੈਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਵਿੱਚ, ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਸਭ ਕੁਝ ਵਿੱਚ ਰਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦਾ, ਸਵਾਦ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦਾ, ਉਹ ਦੇਣ ਵਾਲਾ ਆਪ ਹੀ ਜਾਣਦਾ ਉਹ ਰਸ ਕਦੋਂ ਦੇਣਾ। ਅਟੈਚਮੈਂਟ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਦੋਂ ਨਹੀਂ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਮਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਟਿਕ ਰਿਹਾ, ਮਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਟਿਕ ਰਿਹਾ, ਅਸੀਂ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ, ਲੱਗਦਾ ਬਾਹਰੋਂ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਅੰਦਰੋਂ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ। ਫਾਈਨਲੀ ਕੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸੇਤੀ ਹੁਕਮ ਚਲੇ ਕਹੀ ਬਣਿਆ ਅਰਦਾਸ। ਹੁਣ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਕਰ ਲਓ ਉੱਥੇ ਕਿ ਵੀ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਨਾਲ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਉਹ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕਰ ਦੇਵੇ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਮਨ ਵੀ ਜੁੜ ਜਾਏ, ਨਾਲ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਅਵਾਰਡ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮਿਲਣੇ ਆ ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਅਟੈਚਮੈਂਟ ਹੋ ਜਾਏ।
Actually, what I was referring was that in a materialistic, capitalistic world, the way this world is moving, it is all based on rewards and efforts.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying the way this world is running, so I'm trying to understand, that this is the way the world is running, and yet we should be doing this.
Well, you can focus yourself at that level, or you can rise above it. You can still be doing your things, but you can be kind of floating above it a little bit also. Not get too much sucked into that. Just looking at it only from a very material sense also. As an employer, as a boss, sometimes you have people who express themselves, they are very visible, and the others who are very quietly doing a good job. And when of course, a lot of people don't even notice them, but if you notice them, you really appreciate those workers. If you see somebody who's getting good results, but he doesn't make any claims, he doesn't act arrogant, he's working as a team worker. If you're a good manager, you actually appreciate those people, and you reward them in your own way. So in some sense, it can work out that way, and that's how God works also.
I think God works through people.
Yeah.
So if the attitude is that of giving and selfless giving, which sometimes it's hard because, you get this feeling, oh my God, I've done so much, and then God finds multitudinous ways to reward you, through so many people and so many circumstances. If it isn't through your boss, it's through something else.
And I think it's a good way to reconcile. God, I've done my job. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes the defeats are not good. It's not a good
Yeah.
experience.
No.
So to face the defeats or failure, this is a good way to say, okay, I've done my job. I got, but
The rest
you
is
have
up to
mine.
you.
I think that's one way to reconcile.
The surrender. That's when work becomes worship.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good way to think. I mean, that's what Gurbani is trying to say, that
Yeah.
you can face the difficulties of life if
Yeah.
you think this way.
Yeah. And that's where reconciliation comes, and acceptance.
The last line of this shlok, Kur kamane kuro hove, Nanak sifat vikas. So practicing falsehood, only evil is obtained. So if you get too deeply engaged in worldly pursuits, only leads to more suffering, is what we were saying. Nanak sifat vikas, it's only through sifat vikas, it's only through the Lord's praise. Sifat is praising God, sifat karni, but it's also a broader sense of being in awe of Waheguru and worshipping Him and getting in tune with Him. And through that vigas, through that you blossom forth. That's where the kheda comes, positivity comes. So real joy, happiness, peace comes through praising God, and not through falsehood. Kud is also anything that's transient, so anything of the world, any Mike stuff, is all kud in that deeper sense. And that only leads to more entanglement. This has several sloks by Guru Angad Dev Ji. This one is more different from others that way. And again, Nali aane dosti vadaru sunyai. So getting tied up with the people who are foolish or not following the right path and taking you the wrong way, or following that yourself. Or vadaru sunyai, if you get too tied up in trying to, get tied up with people who are successful and famous, and you try to hang around them. If you get your sense of being good by being around other people who are rich or famous, or the celebrity worship in this country, or the networking with all the successful people, if you focus too much on that, that isn't really ultimately worth anything. Guruji says, "Pani andar leak jao." It's like drawing a line in the water.
How much wisdom is there? Isn't it amazing?
Amazing.
This line
Incredible.
is amazing. I mean, this is...
So holding up a mirror to you.
It's really,
Totally.
give you goosebumps, what you think. It still applies today. Beautiful.
With all universal truths. Pani andar leak jao.
The other part of it is, if you look at it, to hang around with rich people is not going to make you rich, but hanging around with people who are trying to go this direction will lead you to that direction.
Well, Vadaru is not referring to
Right.
those people. Vadaru is worldly greatness, is what he's talking about here.
So is that the right stroke? Because साथ में नदी तरफ लेना, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
साथ में जाओगे तो उस राह चल पाओगे, Just because you hang out with a billionaire doesn't mean you're going to become a billionaire or millionaire.
Exactly.
That's
Clearly,
very
but I-
insightful.
दुनिया की
Very
बढ़िया है।
insightful.
No.
It's a different kind of competition.
Yeah.
When you hang out with the rich and powerful,
Yes.
you're all in that same rat race and you're competing with others. Whereas in the company of holy men, the competition is individual. So it's
Very
there's no.
But
it's
Baba
very
said
clear.
it's okay to hang around with them, so far you know where your thought is.
Exactly.
Take it. If this is not shifting, where it should not, God willing, then you're okay.
If you treat them, if you hang around with them the same way you hang around with the poor people,
Then-
as long as they are, they are good people, spiritual people, but not depending on whether they are rich or poor, that's of course fine. But if the driving factor is, you want to be around the powerful, rich people, that basically you're making yourself kind of subservient to them at some level by doing that.
Sorry, quick question about the praise part. I should have asked it earlier. There's so much emphasis, time and again and again, everywhere, about praising Him. What does that do?
Well, that does something to yourself. It doesn't do anything to Vaheguru. He is perfect and greater than everything. But what you're doing by that is getting yourself in that spirit of awe, wow, the sensage, And that is part of the elevation at the spiritual level. Is by praising God, you are thinking about Him, you are recognizing the higher power and tuning into that and be conscious of that sense of wonder and sense of there's a higher power that's doing everything. And it's a personal transformational process. It's part of Naam Simran, and you'll hear about that. It's a very part of Naam Simran is Sif Salah. It's one of the aspects of Naam
And
Simran.
whatever you praise, whatever you dwell upon, whatever you adore and extol, it kind of rubs off. You become like that. So if you're constantly dwelling on God's nirvairta, nirbhavta, you will stop having these feelings of, competitiveness or enemy or you and me. It slowly rubs off. If you praise someone, if you hang out with people and you are in awe of them and you admire them, you take on their tonalities, their phrases, their way they dress. It's very normal. So if you hang out with God and you praise God, some of those good qualities, and that's the hope, and that's the process that you will become. By adoring God, you become like God.
And also, if once you have this notion that the God is the ultimate big, so-called, you don't have to worry about the so-called the mini bigs,
Yeah.
See here, dealing with the rich means, you still think that he's better.
They are
than God.
gods.
But if he's the God is
They are the moguls.
Exactly.
Praising Vaheguru also is a part of that process of getting the transcendental perception, something that goes beyond all the little things we are engaged in, as you're saying. It's the transcendental aspect of praising God.
Sukhmani Sahib, Sas khate lak uftave, trip na ave maya pache babu. It's similar thing that you keep chasing this wealth, all that. That's what means chasing the rich people and chasing the same thing. You never end up in being satisfied ever. Because there's always another mountain peak. You think you climbed one, you always see, oh my God, I didn't know I have to compete next guy now. So you keep competing.
And instead, the Guru says, "Jaan tu mera hoye, sab jag tera hoye."
That's
You
it.
come to me and everyone will be chasing you.
So
This praising
I-
God shows up as one of the main things in almost every religion. You hear about it.
So,
Almost in the same words also.
and it's a universal truth that all major religions in the world preach the same thing.
Exactly.
And so, is there something missing at a very basic fundamental level, because of which there is this discord between the individual versus the group consciousness? So that instead of bringing us, if we are all the Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, if we are all praising the same one God.
It's
So
not,
is
it's
it
it's the organization, it's the
Organized
it's
form.
the vested interests of it's the Maya drive of the organizers of religions and the religious leaders, which the Guru talks about, Jesus Christ talks about when he talks about Pharisees and all the other stuff. The founders have all warned us about it. That don't become like all the religious. Watch out for all the. Don't become like the
Pundits.
religious leaders, like the pundits and mullahs who are basically following their own desires to get people to follow them. Religions, by saying our religion is the only one, it's the best one, all the others are bad, that's the way to keep the flock together, to make them follow you. All of them have to say, our God is, our teacher is God's only son or last prophet or things like that. And you see Sikhs saying also the same thing, Okay, Guru Granth Sahib is the Guru for eternal time. There can never be anybody else. This is the eternal final answer. There will never be any other more Gurus. There are no more Gurus in Guru Nanak's line for us, but God can send Gurus all the time, right? So you can get into that trap of saying my religion is the best and there won't be any others. And that comes mainly because the organizations need to make themselves successful. So it's the Maya drive of the religious organizers that does that.
ਇੱਕ ਗੱਲ ਹੋਰ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ 'ਚ ਕਹਿੰਦੀ ਗੁਣ ਗਾਵਤ ਗੁਣੀ ਸਮਾਉ। ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰੇਜ਼ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਨਾ, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪ੍ਰੇਜ਼ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ, ਜਿਵੇਂ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਸੀ, ਅਗਰ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਨਿਰਵੈਰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਉਹ ਨਿਰਵੈਰ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਚੱਲਦੀ ਹੈ, ਨਿਰਭਉ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਚੱਲਦੇ। ਜਿਹੜੇ ਦੋ ਗੁਣ ਅਸੀਂ ਗਾਵਾਂਗੇ, ਉਹ ਗੁਣ ਗਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਗੁਣੀ ਨਿਧਾਨ ਬਣ ਦੇਵਾਂ ਖੁਦ ਹੀ। ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਗੁਰੂ ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਸਿੰਘ ਵਿੱਚ, ਮੇਰੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੇ ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਫਰਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹਿ ਜਾਂਦਾ। ਜਦੋਂ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਗੁਣ ਗਾ ਕੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੁਣ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ। ਸੋ ਅਸੀਂ ਅਵਗੁਣਾਂ ਦਾ ਨਾਸ਼ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਗੁਣ ਗਾ ਕੇ, ਤੇ ਗੁਣ ਸਾਡੇ 'ਚ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ। ਸੋ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਮੇਨ ਇਹ ਹੈ, ਜਿਵੇਂ ਓਵਿਦ ਜੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸਨ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਫਰਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੈਣਾ, ਉਹ ਵੱਡਾ ਨਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਘਾਟ ਨਾ ਕਰੇ, ਕੋਈ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਗਾਲਾਂ ਕੱਢ ਲੈ, ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰੇਸ ਕਰਨ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਫਰਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੈਣਾ। ਦ ਸੇਇੰਗ ਇਜ਼ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਐਲੀਵੇਸ਼ਨ ਮਿਲਣੀ, ਅਸੀਂ ਉੱਪਰ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਉਸ ਤੱਕ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਜਾਣਾ। ਜੋ ਅਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਲੋਵਲੀ ਹੈਗੇ ਨਾ, ਗੁਣਾ ਕਰਕੇ ਅਵਗੁਣ ਨੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਅੰਦਰ, ਤੇ ਗੁਣ ਇੰਨੇ ਵੱਧ ਜਾਣਗੇ ਕਿ ਪਰਮੇਸ਼ਵਰ ਸਾਡੇ ਫਰਕ ਨਹੀਂ। ਲੋਕੀ ਕਹਿ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਇਹ ਤੇ ਰੱਬ ਦਾ ਰੂਪ ਹੈ, ਉਹਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਗੁਣ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ, ਗੁਣਾਂ ਦੇ ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ
ਸਭ ਅਵਗੁਣ ਮੈਂ ਗੁਣ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੋਈ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਕੰਤ ਮਿਲਾਵਾ ਹੋਈ। ਬਿਕਾਜ਼ ਕੰਤ ਮਿਲਾਵਾ ਤੇ ਤਾਂ ਹੋਏਗਾ ਜੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਉਹੀ ਗੁਣ ਆਣਗੇ।
But I think that goes back to the earlier comment which you were talking about. The repetition has a value because by repeating constantly, to what I understand,
Exactly.
that slowly, the change is not going to be instant.
Exactly.
But day in, day out, when Babaji says every day you must do,
Yes.
there is a meaning क्योंकि color change होना ना time लगेगा. पता ही कितने जन्म की मैल लगी हुई है.
It's a process.
Holy. Bhaija, correct me if I'm wrong, So at some point in time, that transmigration might happen with his blessing. But Baba ji कहते हैं कि अगर मुक्ति चाहिए, while we are living, we should get to that place with his blessing. After death, there's no way of finding out because it's too late, right?
A human form.
Repetition, there's not enough repetition we can do, because the more we can do, anytime we can think about it, we should say thank you, God. Or
So it's a perpetual conditioning and program.
Absolutely.
But if
It's a
really,
lifelong transformational process.
Perpetual.
if Babaji is part of everything, why do we have to keep on saying it's Babaji doing it, Babaji doing it? It looks like as if one is.
You don't have
It's
to.
not saying like
No,
that.
no, it's
But it sounds very pretentious.
But don't say it.
Similar under chal rahe honda, then you don't have to worry about
Say
it.
to
So
yourself.
within ourselves, we have
Yeah.
God Himself, we have the divine spark, but we also have the other side. We have the Maya side that's pulling us away from God. The rest of the world, all the entanglements of the world, they're pulling us away from that. That's why you have to keep working at it.
You know the
So
force
you can
of.
tune into that divine side and weaken the other side. It's that balance, it's the other side is too high and you have to keep trying to push it back. Go this way and it wants
But
to keep
then
going back
Babaji
and
says
then
that,
push it
right,
back.
to do the right thing, you're not going to be getting a reward because that's your natural form. If we are Bhagwan ka roop, and then to do the right thing, we should not be thinking we should be getting some kind of a reward.
But darling, just get...
Above and beyond that, you can be asking for something.
No. Even then you don't ask for it. Okay? Doing the right thing is expected. But if you do anything beyond that, if it wishes, you give. But the example goes back to material thing. Why does Coke and Pepsi and McDonald's keep putting the ad on the TV? It's like kids don't know about it? No.
Yeah.
The commercial people want to know that you should always remember go to Mickey D's, So same thing applies. Baba, it's not that he's not there, but God willing with his blessings, there is a cycle that might start with his blessing that could be constantly just,
The process of gratitude begins.
Yeah, but gratitude, when you feel it,
You don't have to voice it.
Yeah, you don't
No,
have to constantly voice
No,
it.
you
You have
don't.
to.
Absolutely.
You have to.
अपने
Because
आप
it's not
अपने
we're
आप
not talking about now.
No,
We're not
अपने
talking
आप नो करना. You don't have to show it to the world.
Yeah,
I
we're
think
talking
what you're
about
saying, you don't have to
processes.
voice it. No,
Yes.
You don't.
just have to feel it.
The awareness and the process needs to be constantly renewed. For the longest time, the big one for me was self-awareness or self-knowledge or self-confidence. These are not permanent conditions for the ones. You've got the degree and now you have it. I've got a
Yeah.
master's or no. It has to be constant.
Dynamic.
And that's
It's
right.
dynamic.
I think that's what
You're
it's all
saying
about.
like you have to practice it.
Activate these
Exactly.
feelings all the
Conscious
time.
awareness.
Those reminders are for ourselves.
But it isn't just, Naam Simran isn't just, as you probably hear later, the fact of repeating a name like Wagyu or something is a technique for getting there, but at people who have reached a certain stage, the Simran is more a being and experience.
Internal, it's being.
Like being with somebody you love, just experiencing that. Part of it is that internal thing for a while, and people can sit for a long time just doing that. They're not necessarily repeating a word or anything at that point.
I think it's the nature
You know,
of
even
mind.
it can be like that. You know a language, if you stop using it, you lose it.
Yeah.
You don't practice it, you don't lose it. Simple thing. It's like a very basic thing it is.
See,
You,
not only
you know,
that-
during childhood, you knew Punjabi and everything. You come over here, you don't talk, you lose it.
See,
It's the same thing. If you don't practice, you don't remember it. If you don't, you may not get away, you'll be lost.
See, it's the
No,
nature
I'm
of
not
mind.
saying that you don't practice it. You remember it, but I'm saying that you don't have to
Keep voicing, right?
keep voicing it.
Or you certainly don't need to
Let
voice it to
others
others.
hear it.
Yes,
Like,
that's
Voicing
right.
it to yourself.
I think
not to
that's
others.
You want
absolutely
to
right.
yourself.
Yeah.
If you're taking knowledge for yourself, not for anybody else.
And in
But-
fact, if you keep saying it, you sound like, you know, like very
It'll drive
smart.
everybody crazy around you if you just
Yeah.
keep saying that all the time.
It's very smart to be saying it all the time.
ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਪਸੀਨਾ ਤਾਂ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਰਹੇਗਾ ਪੱਖੀ ਚੱਲਦੀ ਰਹੇਗੀ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਅਦਰ ਪਸੀਨਾ ਤੇ you have to keep ਪੱਖੀ mind is state of mind is such that it is always vulnerable to distractions all the time. So to keep those distractions away, you
Why
have
don't
to
we
make
hold some of
awareness
these
that
for
you
the next
said.
session,
Sure.
but this is the topic. So we'll talk all about Nam Simon.
Very good.
I'm sure we'll come back to this a lot.
Awareness is the key thing. You have to be aware
Which is
of
just
it.
one example came to mind when we were discussing the constant repetition of what happens. You know, the pebbles by the side of the river are very well rounded. They have no rough edges. And that's because of the constant flow of the river that softens them. And that's why river pebbles are very beautiful and very smooth to touch versus just stones lying everywhere else.
So another shlok by Guru Angad Dev Ji, this one is kind of saying the same thing again. Hoi aana kare kam aan na sake ras. Je ka changi kare duji bhi beras. So just kind of reinforcing what he said before. A fool does something, you can't really get it right. And even if once in a while you get something right, you'll mess it up the next time. So he says, without spiritual wisdom, without the understanding that you get from the Guru, without that, you may think you're making a little spiritual progress at a few steps, but then you'll mess up the next time. We come to the Pauri, which is the main sequence that goes through the Asa-Di-Vaar. Talking again about service and devotion. Seva-Di-Vaar Yaga Guru, Seva of Guru by the Sikh. Chakar lage chakri je challe khasme bhai. So you're following the will of your master. Challe khasme bhai is what matters. If that's what the chakri is, that's the kind of service you do. Hurmat tisno agli o vaju viduna khai. Honor increases. He's honored more and more. It's no ugly. Vajo viduna khai, and even he receives double the wages. So he's talking about taking the example of a servant and a good master and a good devoted servant. Khasme kare baravari, which Garat andar paye, but if he starts trying to act like equal to his master, then he's going to, and his master won't be very happy with him. Vajo gawai agla muhe muh pana khai. And he will lose all his salary and he will get punished. Literally, muh muh pana khai, the traditional Indian way of punishing somebody, hitting them with shoes in their face, is the most way you can insult somebody. So just using that as a imagery here. Bacho gawai agla muh muh pana khai, jis adatta khavana tiska ye sabha. So the devotion should be one of, again, total humility and service. Let's celebrate him who provides us with everything. When it comes to God, he's the one who's giving us everything. Like a traditional master is providing the means for his servant to get everything he needs. He's the one who's supporting him. So he said, it's Vaheguru is the one who's giving us everything. Everything we get, everything we eat, everything we consume comes from him. So let's celebrate him. Nanak hukam na challe na khasam challe ardas. And this is again the same thing we heard earlier from Guru Angad Dev Ji also. You don't go around trying to make any demands or commands of your master. Khasam challe ardas.
Vijay, this is the one you were saying you got a deeper understanding of it today. This is the line you were referring to?
I forget which line I was talking about. There was one earlier on.
Okay. I thought this one.
I didn't understand that line there when I first read it.
Oh.
I had to look up the meaning and think about it. Nanak hukam na challe na khasam challe ardas. Any questions or comments on this one?
ਮੈਨੂੰ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਹੀ ਗੱਲ ਸਮਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਆ ਰਹੀ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਕਰ ਲਓ। ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਕੀਰਤਨ ਆਸਾ-ਦੀ-ਵਾਰ ਦਾ ਬੜੀ ਵਾਰੀ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈਗਾ, ਪਾਠ ਬੜੀ ਵਾਰੀ ਕੀਤਾ, ਪਰ ਇਹ 2 ਲਾਈਨਾਂ ਤੇ ਕੰਸਨਟ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਕੀਤਾ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ। ਨਾਨਕ ਹੁਕਮ ਨਾ ਚੱਲਈ ਤੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਸ਼ਲੋਕ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਆਇਆ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਉਹਦੇ ਅੱਗੇ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਕਰਨੀ ਬਣਦੀ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਨਾ ਲਿਆਣੇ ਦੋਸਤੀ ਕਦੇ ਨਾ ਵਿਰਾਸ, ਉਹਦੇ 4th 5ਵੀਂ ਲਾਈਨ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਪਿਛਲਾ, ਹਾਂ ਇਹ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸੇਤੀ ਹੁਕਮ ਨਾ ਚੱਲੇ, ਸੇਮ ਲਾਈਨ ਥੱਲੇ ਆ ਕੇ ਨਾਨਕ। ਇਹਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੰਪਨੀ ਬੈਡ ਮਿਲ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ, ਅਸੀਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਅੱਛੀ ਕੰਪਨੀ ਮਿਲੇ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਬੈਡ ਕੰਪਨੀ ਮਿਲਦੀ ਹੈ, ਅਸੀਂ ਟਰਾਈ ਵੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਬਹੁਤ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਰੱਬ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਕਿਉਂ ਹੋਇਆ ਕਿਉਂ ਹੋਇਆ। ਇਹਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਕਿ ਹੁਕਮ ਵਾਲੀ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਚੱਲਣੀ। ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਜੋ ਹੁਣ ਸਮਝ ਆ ਰਹੀ, ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਮੈਂ ਰੌਂਗ ਹੋਵਾਂ, ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਬੈਡ ਕੰਪਨੀ ਮਿਲਦੀ, ਅਸੀਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਬੈਡ ਕੰਪਨੀ ਮਿਲੇ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਬਰਦਸਤੀ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਰਿਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਕਹਿ ਲਓ ਜਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਫਰੈਂਡਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਉੱਥੇ ਗੁੱਡ ਕੰਪਨੀ 'ਚ ਜਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਕਦੇ, ਡਿਜ਼ਾਇਰ ਹੋਣ ਦੇ ਬਾਵਜੂਦ ਵੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਕਰਮ ਜਾਗਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਹਨ। ਤੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਇਹੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਿ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਕਰ, ਫਿਰ ਤੂੰ ਜੇ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਤੇਰੀ ਗੱਲ ਬਣੇਗੀ। ਤੇ ਸਿਫਤ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਨਾਨਕ ਹੁਕਮ ਨਾ ਚੱਲਈ ਨਾਲ ਖਸਮ ਚੱਲੇ ਅਰਦਾਸ, ਇੱਥੇ ਆ ਗਈ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸਤੀ ਹੁਕਮ ਨਾ ਚੱਲੇ ਕਹੀ ਬਣਿਆ ਅਰਦਾਸ, ਸੇਮ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ, ਦੋਨੋਂ ਤੁਕਾਂ ਸ਼ਲੋਕ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਅੰਗਦ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਦਾ ਤੇ ਪੌੜੀ 'ਚ, ਕਿ ਮਤਲਬ ਉੱਥੇ ਤੇਰੇ ਵਾਸੀ 'ਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ। ਉਹ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਇਟ ਇਜ਼ ਇਨ ਗॉड्स हैंड ਕਿ ਹੀ ਗਿਵ ਯੂ ਗੁੱਡ ਕੰਪਨੀ, ਹੀ ਇਜ਼ ਨਾਟ ਗਿਵਿੰਗ ਯੂ ਗੁੱਡ ਕੰਪਨੀ। ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਜੋ ਨਹੀਂ ਦੇ ਰਿਹਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਐਫਰਟ ਕਰ ਕਰਕੇ ਜਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਮੈਨੂੰ 1-2 ਵਾਰੀ ਚਾਂਸਸ ਹੋਏ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ, ਤੇ ਭਾਈ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਏ ਨਹੀਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਤੇ, ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਜੀ ਬੜੀਆਂ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਲਾਂ ਆਈਆਂ। ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਇਹ ਤੇ ਗੱਲ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਲਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕ੍ਰਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਆਉਣਾ ਸੀ। ਬੜੀ ਕਮਾਲ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ। ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਬੜੀਆਂ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਲਾਂ ਆਈਆਂ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜਸਟ ਕ੍ਰਾਸ ਦ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਲ, ਆਬਸਟੈਕਲਸ ਨੂੰ ਕ੍ਰਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਆ ਜਾਓ। ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵਨਸ ਯੂ ਆਰ ਇਨ ਸੰਗਤ ਆਬਸਟੈਕਲਸ ਆਰ ਗੋਨ ਫॉरएवर, ਮਤਲਬ ਮੋਸਟਲੀ ਚਲੀਆਂ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ। ਪਰ ਇਹ ਉਹ ਦੈਟਸ ਦ ਥਿੰਗ ਇਜ਼ ਕਿ ਬਾਬਾ ਜੀ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕਰੋ ਮੈਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਲਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੱਲ ਕਰਕੇ ਨਿਕਲ ਜਾਵਾਂ ਚੰਗੀ ਕੰਪਨੀ। ਸੋ
ਬਿਊਟੀਫੁਲ, ਵੈਰੀ ਸਵੀਟ।
ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੁਝ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਸੀ?
मैं बस sorry, I just wanted to say singing his praises versus actual meditation. I think the simpler way for me is the actual meditation, because if I get there, then for example, during next line, it's just an example. He gets slapped in the face.
How about listening to Kirtan or reading Gurbani? You do that, right?
What I mean
that works for you?
The mind very easily goes to, oh, he did this to me. This is the treatment that he deserves.
But
The
in
punishment
terms of
that is being meted out to people who are not for.
I just wanted to make one comment about singing phrases. One of the way of doing that is whenever you listen to Kirtan or sing Kirtan or do Gurbani, half of it is Sif Salah, because the Guru is praising the God. So you don't have to sit down separately and say, God, I'm praising you. If you just do part, you're praising God. If you listen to Kirtan, you're praising God, because that's half of what it is. You're singing with the Guru and you are praising God, you're singing His praises.
That's true.
So if you're saying meditation versus singing, I don't do Sifa Salah, you do it. If you're doing Kirtan or part, you are doing Sifa Salah. But for that, you don't have to explicitly do it as a separate thing and say, God, you are great.
And it's having
you have to do
the
it, and He's making you do it through His words.
also the good ਲਿਖਿਆ ਹੈ ਜੇਤਾ ਆਖਣ ਸਾਹੀ ਸ਼ਬਦੀ, ਜੇਤਾ ਆਖਣ ਸਾਹੀ ਸ਼ਬਦੀ ਪਾਖਿਆ ਪਾਏ ਸੁਭਾਈ। ਜਿਹੜੀ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਦੀ ਲੈਂਗੁਏਜ ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਉਹ ਇੰਨੇ ਪਿਆਰ ਵਾਲੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਗੁਣ ਗਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਅਸੀਂ ਹੋਰ ਵੱਖਰੇ ਗੁਣ ਕਿੱਥੋਂ ਲੱਭੀਏ? ਜਾਂ ਉਹ ਇੰਨੀ ਪਿਆਰ ਵਾਲੀ ਲੈਂਗੁਏਜ ਹੈ, ਜੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਪੜਾਂਗੇ ਸੁਣਾਂਗੇ ਕੀਰਤਨ ਰੂਪੀ ਜਾਂ ਕਥਾ ਰੂਪੀ ਜਾਂ ਰੀਡਿੰਗ ਮੀਨਿੰਗ ਪੜ੍ਹ ਕੇ ਉਹਦੀ ਸਿਫਤ ਸਲਾਹ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰੇਜ਼ੈਂਸ ਸਾਰੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈ।
These are tools for remembrance.
I have a question. What is the difference between meditation and Simran? I mean,
That's
because you
what
made
the whole
one
next
point.
topic is, so let's wait for that. You'll be hearing about it, I'm sure. Let's give him a chance. Sir?
Good. I came for the right
Ask all these
reason.
questions.
But the one thing on the ardas, like you said, I mean, because of the difference between trying to focus, yeah, you know, just partner bhi baitho kari, you know, whenever we say, one thing is to, well, like, yeah, Baba, you listen, Baba, I don't have the capacity to focus or understand. Because your dimag ke gap, फटाफट नचता है, you know. So you just kind of ardas करके, instead of doing it at the end, you just do it in the beginning. बाद एक होंदी ठीक है, क्योंकि you kind of give the responsibility to him कि अगर थोड़ा दिमाग लगे या ना लगे, because really it's out of my control, you know. कर लो, जो अगर लग जाएगा 1 सेकंड में, 2 सेकंड में, 5 सेकंड में, you know, whatever time you do, fine. अगर नहीं लगा, that's okay too, because he knows. You kind of give it up to somebody else, higher power. But you have to
pray to Vaiguru for it. So you have to make your own effort and you have to pray for it.
the only effort you're doing is you're doing the part with his blessing, right? But focus part is
But your effort is also, you also make an effort to be to focus on it also, to pay attention and not deliberately think about it. In spite of your efforts,
not deliberate.
in spite of our efforts, the mind will wander.
Yes, it does.
That's the nature of mind.
It does.
So first you have to make the
The other
effort.
thing is,
Very
Then you have to
the other thing is that when you praise Lord, basically you are seeking His attributes. Because see, बंदे सिर्फ क्यों करते हो? Because you want His attributes.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the way, one way to look at
Well,
it.
you're putting yourself in a certain frame of mind. You praising about you in the process you are.
Yeah, but if you praise somebody because you say, I wish I was you. In a way.
I was talking about a very specific thing on the next one, where you say, if you don't do this, you have Murkan analogy. Then my mind tells me, oh, that colleague of mine, he's in this category. If I don't associate with him, that's what that's all I
Now,
meant.
there's another side to that. The Guru also tells us don't be judgmental about people, don't put people down, don't criticize them.
Yeah.
At the same time, he says don't get too involved with the stupid people. So don't get involved in saying they're stupid.
Yeah.
If you focus on calling them stupid, then you're going against the Guru too. But just being aware of it, saying this is not the person who's giving me the right inspiration. Let me not let me not follow this guy. He's famous, he's successful, he's a hot shot, but he's taking me away from the spiritual path. Let me not involve with him. Let me spend more time with my Asa-Di-Vaar or somebody who will give me more inspiration.
You know,
In that
Vichaar,
sense.
just like you said a little while ago, that Murkan analogy, don't engage with the foolish thoughts in your own
But
mind.
don't say I'm smart and foolish.
Yeah.
That's that's a slippery side. You don't want to get into that.
Look towards the foolishness that generates within you. Like
Yeah, that's why you have to
sarkats,
see it in yourself.
you know, sarkat syon kar ulti re man ulti re. When you see a sarkat, go back. Same thing, when you see the sarkat thoughts in your own mind, retreat. So I think, yes, it's for the others, but it's mostly for yourself.
Yes.
Because Gurbani addresses your, the soul, not the rest of the world as much.
What's happened?
Sarkat is, someone who is a
Shakti is
non-believer,
the Sarkat.
kind of cynical,
Who's
non-believer.
tied into who followed Maya, chaser of Maya. Worldly
Non-
people, who are, if you're not following the Guru's and Guru's teachings,
Manmukh.
spiritual, the opposite is being a Sarkat.
Oh.
Manmukh.
Nindar,
But you're
Dojak or
chasing,
Sarkat.
chasing worldly pleasures.
Nindar,
Chasing
Sarkat.
worldly things.
Kind of same category.
Yeah. Dojak is what? Hell.
Nindik, Dojak, and Dojak being Nindak and Sarkat, kind of similar category.
Dojak narkam ka na.
Narak, it's hell.
Dojak
Dojak
nark
is hell.
hell.
Yeah.
It's the Muslim word. Jahannam and Dojak, something like that.
माइक नेट कर लोगे माइक पे कर लो
Chalo, yeah, now I think we'll close down now to give enough time for the second session. We'll take a very, very short 5-minute break. Then we'll continue with Naam Simran with Vikram Singh ji.